He's been a great friend of the Mike Bender Golf Academy for many years. He's so knowledgeable about junior golf, and he has 2 books written over there, Journey to Excellence and High Performance Golf, that have been our Bibles. So I'm going to use my notes because there's so many great things to say about Henry.
Keep it short and sweet, Cheryl.
We'll keep it short and sweet, but we really appreciate you coming up tonight because we've had a very busy week in the golf industry. We had a teaching and coaching summit earlier in the week, the PGA show, and now Henry's teaching a class for the next 2 days. So to make the trip all the way up here, thank you so much.
More than a pleasure.
But Henry is one of the most recognizable names in Canadian golf and is one of the world's leading golf coaches and educators. He was the Royal Canadian Golf Association's National Golf Coach, the creator of the Canadian PGA and Teaching and Coaching Certification Program, a Canadian PGA Master Professional, and the only Canadian recognized as Golf Magazine's Top 100 teacher and U.S. Kids Golf Top 50 teacher. In addition to his work with the Canadian men's and junior boys national teams, Brunton also leads Strive for Excellence, a comprehensive year-round coaching and training program for aspiring high-level junior collegiate golfers at his home base in Eagle's Nest, which is near Toronto. And we've stolen a lot of information from Henry throughout the years. So thank you so much again, and we're looking forward to your presentation. It's going to cover a lot of information.
Thanks very much for the invitation to come and support you. And Mike, congratulations on this building, this academy. It's really neat for me to see it come to life when it was Mike's vision, his brainchild. I mean, so much work, so much passion, but to see you people training here, like, just gladdened my heart. It was really cool to see that. I love the building. I mean, the building is a building, but it's got character. You can see people are training here. It's like, it's really, I think it's one of the premier golf academies in the world. It really is. And so I think everyone's very fortunate to be here and be a part of this. And I'm always thrilled to support Mike and Cheryl and all the coaches. And I'm looking forward this evening to hopefully helping you get more clarity on what it is you need to do to be on the road to playing college golf. And I'm happy to answer any questions anytime. And we'll have plenty of time for questions later. And hopefully you'll find the information to be interesting and stimulating. So as Cheryl said, I was the Canadian national coach for 13 years. Pretty long time, and it was a lot of fun. I loved every minute of it, and I created our player development program in Canada. When I started in Canada, not because it's me, but we didn't have any infrastructure. We had any good players were complete accidents. So Mike Weir was on the tour before we started our program. He just developed because he worked hard and was a great athlete, and they were accidents. And now we're seeing, boy, there's a ton of Canadian players, really good ones. And here's a picture of the World Amateur Team Championships in '08. I pulled this out of my files for this tonight, and that's Nick Taylor. Nick Taylor is the shortest one, the red guys in red, and Nick Taylor just won the Sanderson Farms this year on the PGA Tour in his 14th start. But he almost quit golf this summer. He missed 7 straight cuts. He got married. Golf's a funny game. It's like the stock market or the oil prices. It kind of goes up and down. So even and he became world #1 amateur. He became world #1 amateur in '09, and so. I'm not sure if you can see the slide very clearly, but the guy at the top of that leaderboard is Ricky Fowler. He won that week. But what was really interesting that week is that Danny Lee was the world #1. Danny Lee from New Zealand. That last round at Royal Adelaide, he shot 89. So moms and dads, young athletes, even as good as you might be, there'll be days when it just goes like that. Imagine that. Danny Lee, he's on the PGA Tour now, shot 89 in the last round. Tough game sometimes. So I spent a long time doing that, loved every second of it, and as Cheryl said, I just love golf, of course, but especially helping young people and families be all they can be through the sport. In Canada, we're really lucky. Timing was right, the game is sort of in the right place. We created the first long-term athlete development plan in the history of golf. Kind of cool. So here's how it works. Golf's now an Olympic sport. That's another conversation we won't have time, but it's pretty cool. It's really changing golf. And one of the foundational pieces of Olympic sport is that you have to have a template for athletes, coaches, parents to follow. And it's called a long-term athlete development plan. And we have this in Canada. It's very well known. You can download it off the internet. But one of the key things about this plan, as it was put together by people like myself, along with contributing sports scientists. And one of the key things in that plan, and I would invite you to maybe print it off, or I'll get you some copies, is things are pretty strongly correlated to the number of hours you work with focus, with coaching, with purpose, to the level that you'll eventually get to. We'll have that discussion more tonight. So LTAD, long-term athlete development, really means there's a starting point, and there are certain things along the way that we need to be doing if you're trying to be a top-level competitor. How many folks in here want to play collegiate golf? That's sort of a place they're going. Terrific. How many folks have been to a college golf tournament? Wow. So I would encourage you all to get to a college golf tournament at some point to see what it's like. It'll probably give you even more inspiration. I wrote a paper on the development of expertise and the related probability of making it to the PGA Tour. I did a research paper that you can download off my website for free. There's also an executive summary version, the shorter version, but essentially just talks about many things I'll talk about today, but more in depth. Might be interesting for parents to see what the science says about people that are developing in golf. And as Cheryl said, I've written 2 books, Journey to Excellence and High Performance Golf, that really focus on kids in sport. And my partner is Dr. Rick Jensen from Bruton, Florida, a great friend of Mike and Cheryl's, one of the world's great golf educators and a wonderful man. He has a book called Easier Said Than Done, The Truths from the Tour. He's had 199 PGA Tour wins, guys he's worked with. It's a fantastic book. A lot of there on practice, how to practice. So if you remember one thing tonight, there's only one place that success comes before work that we know of. Does anyone know what that is? There's only one place that success comes before work.
Lottery.
The dictionary. You're showing someone that's doing something really well,
that's funny.
and they're working at it. Here's a picture I found of Rory. Now, isn't it interesting? Look at the hat he's wearing as a 10-year-old. And look at where he is now.
So cute.
And he's with Michael Bannon. What you're going to hear tonight is that there's a common theme. Great performances, great development. There's always people, almost always people like Mike and Cheryl and Matt and all the coaches. That's what supports athlete development. Michael Bannon now is full-time with Rory. And boy, he's in a position he might just dominate golf. He's that good, as Mike knows. Mike watches him play. And here's Rory's development. We went over to play against Ireland, and I guess it would be 08. Play the Irish boys national team, and I had my 2 top guys ready to take him on. I had them all fired up. They were going to take him on, and we got over there, and Seamus Smith, the Irish president, said, "Henry's not playing this week. He's played enough golf. Time for rest." So Rory is, we say, there are no accidental champions. He was being really well managed from an early age, so they weren't going to just burn him out. So he took rests and breaks. And when Mike and Cheryl and Matt, well, there's times for increase and decrease in your cycles of development. So respect the importance of rest. And now he's developed into an incredible athlete. Has anyone seen the picture? You know how much he can, is it 500 pounds he can squat? It's a crazy number. He can squat. He is absolutely incredible. When he was younger, he quite frankly was soft and pudgy. Very talented. He was I think it was Cheryl earlier, he was a +5 handicap at age 15. So he was a phenom, really is. And obviously he is doing what he's doing now. But he had some bumps along the road too, didn't he? College golf is an amazing opportunity for people. When I was a young boy in Canada, young man in Canada, I didn't know the world of college golf existed. I really didn't. From a small little town, there was a guy that from a nearby city who played in Illinois, and we heard that the reason how he got there was a sports writer called the coach. But we didn't even know it existed, believe it or not. At least I didn't. And so in my life, it's really fun for me to share all that I've learned to help you folks have opportunities I didn't really have. College golf is an incredible opportunity. Cheryl played at Rutgers. Mike was a national champion. It's an incredible experience if you're ready for it. We're going to have that conversation. The information I'll pass along is honest, it's true. It's not meant to be anything but inspiring. So, and we'll have plenty of time for questions. But look how enormous the landscape is. High school golfers in America, roughly 150,000 men, and a little less than half of those are females. Less than 10% will ever play at some level of collegiate golf. Less than 1% of the boys will play Division I.
Can I just interject real quick?
Sure.
Thing is that's when we say we have 100% of our kids that have been through our league program have gotten scholarships since it began. That's pretty amazing.
It's incredible.
It's unbelievable, even though our numbers are small, but, you know, so anyway, that's really good.
Yeah. Yeah, so it's a huge landscape. There are a lot of kids trying to do it. There's no reason why you can't do it if you're in this environment. You have the support. Obviously, families are helping you. Coaches are here. You've got the environment. You can do it if you put the effort into it, and the effort is channeled. This information I think you'll find interesting. So notice that in college golf, it's an enormous landscape. Division I, Division II, Division III, NAIA, junior college. 1,300 schools. Isn't that incredible how big that is? Notice that there are about 12,000 young men, roughly 6,000 young ladies that play. And you can see how much scholarship money is available. We'll have a bigger discussion on that, how that works, what the reality is. Because in junior golf, moms and dads and athletes, people for some reason tell stories. I don't know what it is. It's just like, because I know the stories. I know almost all the good coaches. I know people sign for, and it oftentimes doesn't really match up to what is really true. Sort of interesting phenomenon, right? So there are all these players who are having a phenomenal experience playing collegiate golf, and there's not a lot of money to go around, unless you're really good. We'll have that discussion. So you can see that women's golf at the Division I level have 6 full scholarships if the team is fully funded. Not all teams are fully funded. Men's teams have 4.5 if they're fully funded. That's because of Title IX, which was landmark legislation in the early 70s for equal money for men and women in sports. So football's got 85 full scholarships, so you got to make it up somewhere. And so you can see at Division II level, there are fewer scholarships, 3.6 to 5.4. NAIA have 5. Tons of teams, great opportunities if you're prepared for it. And you're in the catbird seat to be prepared for it. So golf is a different sport than most sports. So if we were gymnasts, man, would we be in a hurry to develop you, because the window to compete and train, you retire when you're a teenager. That's when they retire. So we know from research that people that play at the highest levels, people like Zach Johnson that Mike's worked with, major champions, and this goes back to the times of Bobby Jones. The average time they first had an experience with golf, doesn't mean they were playing full time, had an experience with golf, they were 8.3 years of age. 8 years of age, girls were 9. When they won a major, they were 31 on average. And you can see that the females were 20, 26. The point is, it's a long-term development sport. And it's important that you do the right things at the right time to give yourself the best chance to develop. Zach Johnson couldn't make the University of Iowa, played at Drake. How much money has he made? Like, it's crazy, right?
34 million.
$34 million is
Official.
Yeah. Yeah. Incredible. So it's a long-term sport. You need to be doing the right things at the right time so you can play your best golf. But what should you be doing? Because you can try hard. We see a lot of kids trying really hard with good intentions, but some kids don't get a lot better. They don't have the coaching support, the facilities, the tournaments. The 3 skills that everyone needs to obviously develop. Number 1 is ball control. You've got to have control of the golf ball. You get that with great fundamentals, great technique, and practice, practice, practice. That's how you get control of the ball. That's how the point guard gets control of the ball. This is a game of ball control. We heard Nancy Lopez speak this week. Wasn't that a thrill?
That was
The great Nancy Lopez. And she said when she was developing, she learned how to drive the ball straight. We'll talk about driving in a second. And she worked on her putting inside 5 feet like a maniac. And she became Nancy Lopez. Decision making. Most junior golfers never work on this stuff. Decision making is incredibly important. When to lay up, when to hit a 3-wood, when to go for it. Whenever we watch junior golf tournaments, people like Mike and I and Matt and Cheryl just go, oh my God, I can't believe that person just made that decision. I have a kid in my program who led the the junior circuit last year and greens over the greens in regulation. Right? And self-management. The ability to control your emotions, your thoughts, to calm down. This is a game of calm. It's a game of being calm and just playing the game, training your skills, and then trusting what you've trained, and it's just long-term. Long-term. We ask kids to be clear, where are you going to be in 25 tournaments? Not where did you play this week. What are you doing to get better in 25 tournaments? And the three most important skills, our good friend Peter Sanders from Shot by Shot, who's the #1 stats guy in the world, hands down, will tell you without question that driving is the most important skill set. When we were kids, we were told you drive for show, you putt for dough. We were told that. It's not really true. It's you've got to have control of your T-ball. If the T-ball is not in play, you're in trouble. When you hit a ball in the fairway, this will be interesting for longer hitters like Thomas and some of the guys around. It's a 50-yard advantage to be in the fairway. So if Thomas has hit his tee shot, bombed it on a hole, and he has 150 yards in the middle of the fairway, he is very likely going to be as close or closer than someone of equal skill who is in the rough at 100 yards. So tee shots are enormously important. And most kids just want to hit as hard as they can. You need to work on control shots. So what's your second serve like? Do you have a shot that avoids the water? All those kind of things. So tee shots #1. Putting enormously important. And of course, we call it wedging. And this is the master. You guys have the guy that invented the wedge games. So having control of your wedges for your approach yardages, and of course, look at the environment, chipping, pitching, sand play. If you work really super focused in those areas, you'll likely develop skill and confidence that will show up in results, and then you'll be on your way to getting to the college game. What does James Citron tell us? The Dynamic Path's a great book, by the way. You need focus, hard work, dedication, good coaching, and demanding competition. We're going to talk about how good the college players are. What's it really like out there? It's exciting, but you have to be prepared for it. And no one owes it to you. You have to earn it. No one owes you a spot on a college team. No matter how good you are, you've got to be ready and you have to earn it. Golf's a long-term sport. It takes 10 years or 10,000 hours to get to where you might be really good. So if you're playing with some young lady, some young man, and they're beating you right now, they probably just have more hours in than you do. But hours only count if you're focused on getting better. So if you have earphones in your ears, that's just wasting your time. If you're out here on your phone, you're wasting your time. So imagine a bank account, and every time you have a good hour of practice, you get one more hour in the bank account. And the players that play the PGA Tour, LPGA Tour, top college players, they've got the most hours in the bank. They have the most skill. That's where you develop skill. What we notice, not you folks in this room, but in general in junior golf, most young people haven't been given the information. This is a game of effort. The harder you work, the luckier you'll probably get. So 10 years is a long time. And you can start later. We had Greg Norman speak to us this week. Didn't play golf till he was 15. Nancy Lopez started as a young girl, but Annika didn't start until she was 13. So this sport is a neat sport because other sports, let's face it, in basketball, unless you're really freakish and you're not above 6 feet, you're probably not going to put up the highest levels. Other sports discriminate. If you're a female, you want to be in gymnastics, you have to have a certain body type to be able to do that. This sport, man, anybody can play and be top level. You can see that as you develop, there are very, very few seats left in that bus. I saw the Bryan brothers are practicing today, right? Yeah. I know those guys. They forgot they met me in California with Ricky Fowler. This is several years ago when I had Matt Hill, who was world #2. I had the world #1, world #2 amateurs in 09 from Canada. Can you believe that's even possible? Anyway, Matt Hill was the NCAA champion. We were out there doing stuff with Scotty Cameron and Bob Volke, and the Bryan boys were there. But they're still not there yet. It's a tough game. It takes time because there are not very many seats in the bus. And Mike can tell you, he's out there all the time. The guys out there, they don't want to leave. They don't want to leave. Other sports, the guys want to retire. Their bodies are beat up. They're done. This sport, people want to stay for obvious reasons. So it's a hugely challenging environment. Practice, practice, practice. The name of this game, on the right things. And the athletes push themselves in training sessions. It's hard work. It's the way it is. But your environment here is, you have such an enormous advantage with the environment you have here, with the pure environment plus the coaching. And Citron says whether you're playing golf, being an attorney, a chef, a waitress, whatever you might be an expert in, those people, the top people, they've worked the hardest most likely, and they've invested the most amount of time. The good news is you folks here are way ahead of the curve. A lot of people think they're just going to play some junior golf tournaments, practice pretty hard, and sometimes get the odd lesson, and they're going to make it. It's very unlikely. Mental toughness means you can do it when it counts. But the only way you can do it when it counts is if you do it so often in non-pressure that it's like tying your shoes. So if you're not quite skilled enough in everyday practice, under pressure, you're not going to choke. That's not choking. This means you're not skilled enough. So develop a skill, then compete, and neat things can happen. The talent iceberg shows you that when people look above the water, they see the score, the ranking, all that stuff. That's all well and good. Keep an eye on that with just a small eye. Look below the surface. So if you want to be really good at the sport, the amount and quality of practice. Did I say that practice was important, Cheryl?
Yes, you
Yeah,
did.
practice is enormously important. Mike?
One comment here is that notice most of the triangles under the water, and just like I talked to everybody here, everybody is always measuring what happened at this last tournament. And they're either up or they're down because they shot 2 rounds in the 80s, and how could they do that when they're working this hard at the facility? But you don't understand that that underneath there is going to lead to that tip up there, right?
Exactly. And you'll never know. It just happens. It can just happen. Matt Hill, I called Doug Roxbury, who was my counterpart. He was the director of player development. We were in Florida. We had all of our national team guys there, and I was working with Matt Hill. Was a good player, but he was on our development team. So there were 8 guys ahead of him. And I called him. I said, Doug, he's got it. He's got it. He goes, really? I said, he's got it. 6 weeks later, he was beating everybody. He beat Tiger Woods' records. In the NCAA, he won 8 events in a row. Was the athlete of the year in the ACC. Not golfer of the year, athlete, which has never happened before. So it can just change. And in this game, your game is never really staying the same. Is it getting better or is it getting worse? If you're training, great things will happen. Keep your focus below the surface. Let the results happen, because everyone's going to develop at different rates. These boys are 14 years old, plus or minus 2 months. So who are you picking in the boxing match? Who are you picking in the gymnastics? But when it's all said and done, when people mature, everyone comes out level. So because some kid's beating you now, don't worry about it. Work on yourself. Be the best that you can be. Have the most skill. Be clear on what to work on. It'll be amazing what you can achieve. So don't worry about comparing yourself to others. Compare yourself to yourself. And we want to talk about how people really develop. Early on, you folks are out of this stage for the most part now. The kids should be playing lots of sports early, developing coordination, balance, tumbling, running, throwing, so that when they get older, they have access to those skills, those coordination skills. And golf should be one of them. When kids turn around the age of 13, which is appropriate for many people here, this is when people have the mental capability to look at the landscape and say, hey, I love golf, I'm good at it, I want to see how good I can get at it. And oftentimes they have a second sport they like as well. And the second sport that they like is usually a different season. And so these kids are having coaching like you're getting here, strong coaching that aligns with their goals at the age of 13 and 15. Many of you are in that stage right now. And then around the age of 16, again, plus or minus, a small variance, people, most of you here, they're all in. They're in the investment years. So incredible amounts of practice like you're doing, competing, strong schedule, not too many, not too few, with the right kids, and they're on an elite development pathway. But it takes time, so be patient. It just takes time. Graham Gillette. I spoke about Graham several years ago. Right? So I was in a room here several years ago. I said, this guy that I know in Canada, he's going to be so good you're not going to believe it. I think Mike kind of looked
I'll
at
never forget when you said that.
Yeah, Mike looked like I was a little bit crazy, right?
I go, I'm gonna watch this.
Yeah, he thought it was a little bit, I know you guys, I guess I look he gave me. Well, fast forward, he's on the President's Cup team,
Yep.
#1 ball striker on tour. He has not won yet, which is hard to believe. His putt's so badly. He's been injured too, so he's had some injuries, so hopefully he comes back now and starts to play great. But at this stage, just be all in. Listen to your coaches. The research shows mom and dads that at this age, mom and dad step back and they just sort of ask questions to the coaches. They let the kids be kids. They honor and respect the athlete environment. They're not on a range. Please don't caddy for them. Let them build their self-management skills. Let them play golf. Let them deal with the ups and downs. And it's never as bad as you think it is, and it's never as good as you think it is. Just be stable. Be like that Wall Street Fortune 500 company. It just keeps making good fundamental decisions. In the end, all good things happen. Be careful you don't get caught in this trap. 85% or so of the youth champions will not be the real champions in the end. So don't put too much emphasis on winning early. Build skill, build foundation, let the skill happen. So 85% of those kids that win, I spoke at an event in Florida here a couple of years ago, and I said, one of the things I found in my research in my paper is that in a U.S. junior champion, arguably the hardest tournament in the world to win for a junior golfer, 1 of every 6 will make it to the PGA Tour. I looked up in the crowd, and there was one of those winners in the crowd who was on the PGA Tour. And he gave me that look like Mike gave me, like, you're crazy, right? So after it was over, he said, geez, Henry, after you said that, I thought you were crazy, and I started counting. You're right. 1 in 6 of the world junior champions make the PGA Tour. It's just the way golf is. So don't get too caught up in winning early. It's great if you win, enjoy it, try to win, but build skill. So as you get older, you can be there. There are choices. Division 1, Division 2, Division 3. Now, in Canada, when you say Division 2 or Division 3, the kids think that's, I don't know, like intramurals. All the players at college golf level are good. So Division 1, typically bigger schools have the big athletic programs, the most money to spend on sports. Division 2, not quite as much scholarship money, but very, very good teams. They can all play. And Mike Bender is a Division 3 national champion. He made the PGA Tour. By the way, my research showed he was the only one that's ever done that. He's the only player that ever played Division 3, won the championship, and made it the PGA Tour. So the top players are typically in Division 1, some in Division 2. There's NAIA, very strong programs. It's an enormous landscape. And there's also international. University of St Andrews in Scotland has a great golf team. I have 2 of my players who play on that team. So it's a neat landscape. Phenomenal opportunities for everybody if you're good enough. The purpose of NCAA golf programs, they're not in the business to build tour players. That's not their mission. So why do universities have golf teams? Because they believe if you're a musician, an actor, whatever your thing might be, if they give you chances to develop those skills, you'll become a very rounded and fulfilled person. And so in sport, that's why we have sports in universities. They're not there to develop tour players. It's not their purpose. It's not their mandate. They're there to develop people. Sometimes younger people, and they as parents haven't thought about that, but they're not in the business of developing tour players. Academics matter. They're student athletes. Student athletes. A young man, his name was Richard Jung, coaching at the time he was 12 years old, became for sure top 3 junior players in the world. He's only 21 now. And when he was 14, I sat with him and his father, I'll never forget it, and I said, Richard, you'll never go to school. It's impossible. He wasn't trying in school. He thought he was such a great golfer that he was just going to get a full ride someplace. But his academics were so weak, he wasn't putting any time into it, that he never had the experience of it. It's sad. And he turned pro young, and he's struggling. Hopefully he'll make it someday, but the odds are not there for him. And so academics, really important, and we like to say academics first. It's a long life, having a great degree, giving yourself lots of blue sky options is really important. Scholarships are not scholarships because you're a scholar. They're sports assisted grants. So if you're really good versus kids of your birth year, so compare yourself to other kids your birth year. What year were you born, Nathan?
2002.
2002. So you should be comparing yourself to the kids born in 2002 and saying, am I the hardest working, smartest working, most passionate kid from 2002? Where are these kids? That's who you're comparing yourself to. Not kids maybe older like Thomas. I knew Thomas when he was your size, right? So, who is your birth year? What should you be doing? And if you can do what Nick Faldo did to a fellow that I know, he didn't mean to be that way. This is many years ago at a world championship. The guy said, good luck, Nick. He said, you'll need it. Why was he so confident? He had the skill. He had the skill. And my mentor, the great Mo Norman, who you may never heard his name, you can YouTube him, the great Mo Norman, considered to be the greatest ball hitter of all time. He would shake your hand and immediately judge you. How would he judge you if he shook your hand? What would he be doing? What would he be judging? No, not judging your grip. He'd be looking for calluses. And he knows you can't be good without calluses. I'm no good right now because I'm not practicing. So these are the things that are really important to be aware of. 8 to 12 players on a college team typically. Female teams oftentimes not as many, harder to find qualified athletes. Females, Merry Christmas, you've won the lottery. If you're a very strong female player, incredibly easy water to tread through, but you have to be good. You know, the thing is you can't be shooting in the 80s and expect to be on a full ride somewhere, but if you become a very strong female player, the landscape is a lot less competitive, just numbers-wise, than the boys, and there's more money available. The best players are getting 50 to 75% scholarships, the best. So the Florida State Junior Champion, the top kids, the top players are typically getting 50 to 75%. I have a boy that I coached, his name is Tony Gill. Do you know him, Thomas?
I recognize the name.
Yeah, so all of a sudden he just got good. All of a sudden I could see it coming. Why would I know he's getting good? How did I know he was getting good when I trained him? Any ideas?
Hours.
Good golf, I couldn't put hours in, but I could see ball control develop. Big time. And all of a sudden he went from an absolute nobody to I'm getting phone calls from all the top schools. They all wanted him. He got recruited in 10th grade. We'll talk about the recruiting process, how much it's accelerated. So, a guy like Tony, yeah, he gets a full ride, but that's very rare. You've got to be super high level to be getting that kind of money. It's sort of an adult world being played with young people. So it's like a business. They want to get the best players they can get by spending as little money as they can, and they need to win. So they're going to judge a guy like Abe, if he's an 02 kid, and they're going to say, okay, of all these 02 kids, if I bring him on my team, has he proven that he could beat that 02 kid that's playing at Virginia Tech, that 02 kid that's playing Oklahoma State? Can he beat these guys? We got to win. College golf coaches are nice people, but they're not that nice. If you don't play well and you start losing, they're not nice anymore because they're dropping the line. It's just a reality. Many players receive no scholarship money. In my first book, I talk about a player, I don't use his name. He was a walk-on, blah, blah, blah. And I say in that book, I said, and I don't know what I said, I said, I wouldn't be surprised if he makes the PGA Tour. Turns out that's Brad Frisch. He just won the Web.com Q School. Shot him 2,700 down there. Phenomenal. Lost his card. He'll get back on. He was a walk-on at a small school in Buies Creek, North Carolina, Campbell University. Yeah. Campbell University. He's been a professional golfer for 14 years. That makes a living. He's doing quite well. And many players don't get any scholarship money. Just reality. There's 12 players. It's only 4.5 scholarships on the men's side, 6 on the ladies' side. Moms and dads, this is important for young people to be learning how to manage time. Because when they get to college, if they haven't learned to manage time, they're in for an incredible transition. college athletes during the season, we'll have a discussion about that a little later. I'll ask Cheryl to remind me about that. I don't want to get off track. But they typically are up 3 days a week during season to lift weights at 6:30 a.m. For an hour, they have breakfast. They have class from 8:30 to 11:30. They have lunch, and they train and play golf the rest of the day. And many teams are in qualifiers 3 or 4 times a week, which means they're playing a tournament against their fellow teammates to see who's going to play in the tournaments. And they travel. Some miss up to 25 days of school a year. So you got to keep up with the academics. It's hard work. Got to be organized. You get 3 choices, but you can only pick 2. You have golf, academics, and social. So guess what happens if you pick the wrong choice? I mean, we all know, right? Just a reality. Other people that are going to university can sort of do other things, but if you're a golf athlete, it's a very unique sport. We're playing 5-hour rounds. Basketball players play an hour-and-a-half game. It's a different sport, so it's very time demanding. And it takes preparation in your adolescent years, because if you don't train for that and you just all of a sudden are shocked by it, you're going to be in for a huge transitional issue. Think of college golf like it's a job. And the coaches they're taking resumes for these jobs. Do you have what it takes to play? So if I was a college coach at a university you wanted to go to, what would I be looking for? And you have the credentials that would set you apart from others who are coming.
These people drove the farthest to come see you, Henry.
Come on in. Make yourself home. Come on in. So do you have what it takes to get hired? Well, that's what do coaches look for. What's your name, young man? I'm sorry, your first name? Yeah. Simon, what do you think college coaches are looking for? What are the things that they're looking to assess to see if a player would be a potential person to play in their team? Any idea one thing they'd be looking for? Well, they'd be looking for a guy like you because they look for people that look the part. No offense to anyone. If a guy walked into a college recruiting meeting with, no offense to anyone, please don't take this the wrong way, with 4 earrings and 5 tattoos, might be a great person, but that doesn't go against, that goes against the grain of college golf. So you got to look the part. Sounds kind of, that's reality. Because these coaches have to travel with these players. What else do they look for? What's your first name? What do you think they look for? Any ideas? What do you think, ladies? What are you looking for?
Dedication.
Yes, they want people that don't need to be prodded to practice. They look for people with internal motivation and passion for the game. Absolutely. True passion. They haven't been pushed by mom and dad. Look for kids that love the game and want to get better. What else, Thomas, are you looking for?
How you act on the course, whether you're playing really bad or really good.
Yeah, because in college golf, if you act out on the golf course, what happens?
You're off the team.
Well, you will be, because it's 2-shot penalty. Every time you're caught doing the wrong stuff. So, throwing a club, throwing an F-bomb. 2, not how the coach feels in, you're not playing next week. You're right, so behavior is important. But what are they really looking for, if you want to be honest?
Score.
Yeah, look and see if you can play golf. So if you have the skills, and your skills are better under pressure than people you're competing with, you're in. That's the game. This game is about putting that ball in the hole. They're looking for power, ball flight, sound fundamentals, excellent technique. Mike and I have seen it over our years and our careers where there's some kid that, it's bizarre to see kids in junior golf with a crazy bad swing that they can somehow play really well in junior golf. But in college golf, the courses get longer. They play them tougher than the PGA Tour courses. The hole locations are tougher, they're longer. So if someone has flawed technique, bye-bye. They're done. They're done. So they need to have emotional control, advanced mental skills, know how to prepare for events, all the things you're learning here. So you're so far out of that curve. They're looking for all these things. They're looking for people that are competent students who need to be able to simply pass courses. What happens if you fail? happens if you fail to your class and have poor marks?
You won't be able to play.
Yeah, you're academically ineligible. And the coach gets in trouble. And the athletic director says, hey coach, you brought that kid in from Mike Bender Golf Academy. We're wasting money on a scholarship, the kid that can't even pass. So they need to have people that pass. It's a very important thing. And a lot of golf teams are looking for high GPA because the basketball, football teams, quite frankly, have low GPAs, and they're trying to get an overall athlete. It's reality. That's reality. So the athletic director saying, hey, bring in kids that can get good grades. It's important. They look for family support that is positive. Guess what the coaches don't want? Like the kid I used to coach, he just retired, I can't believe it. He played on the Georgia team that won the national championship in '05. Chris Kirk, Brian Harmon, help me, who's the boy, four of them, Kevin Kistner, and four of them made the PGA Tour. I know all
Webb
those.
Simpson.
English, Harris?
No, we have four of them.
Webb Simpson?
No, Webb went to Wake Forest.
Oh.
Anyway, this kid, young man, I coached him for years, a four-time national champion in Canada, finished runner-up in the U.S. Junior Amateur. Who won that year that he won? Henry Liao. You ever heard of him? No, he's one of those five that didn't make it. He's a club pro. He's a club pro in Southern California now. But my point is family support. The player I supported, his father, a lovely man, but was calling Coach hack. Finally, Coach called me first. He's a nice man, not to be, but he said, look, I deal with the players. So they don't want moms and dads that are, what they call them, helicopter parents. So point to moms and dads, give the kids when it's appropriate time and space to develop and do their own thinking, their own management. Very important, because that's a nightmare for a coach. They don't want those nightmares. Education, education, education. So choose a school you'd be proud to be at, even if you didn't have a golf team. Get a great education, because the education you receive will be strongly correlated to the person you will likely marry, the money you make in life. It'll be a huge predictor of your success in life. So get a college degree if you possibly can. I'm so disappointed with our great Canadian player, Brooke Henderson. Does anyone know that name, Brooke Henderson? She's from, like, near where I'm from. Like, you won't believe where she's from this little town in the middle of nowhere. She finished 8th in the U.S. Open this year, 16. Finished 22nd in the Dinah Shore. She got a taste of the big life. Full ride to Florida, her dream school. And I saw her last night at a function, and she's turned pro and signed an IMG. And I like life better with a degree in your pocket. It's important. So choose a school really, really cleverly for all the right reasons. It's getting more and more competitive in the schools. Recruiting, I'll talk about it more in a moment, has been accelerated. Kids that are, believe it or not, in the 9th and 10th grades are being recruited at the highest levels. Be prepared. Make sure that, I think you have that support in this academy with academics, so make sure that your academic classes match up to what the NCAA requires. Be prepared. Go through the eligibility center. Be ahead of that curve. Every once in a while we see kids that haven't done that and they're not eligible. That's sad when that happens. Very important. So develop study habits. Be prepared academically. That's your admission ticket. You can't get through that door without that admission ticket, no matter how good a player you are. Richard Young was an unbelievable junior golfer. Mike had hit it 350, 340, great, putted like a blind man, and he was still a great player. You know, there aren't 10 guys in the PGA. There wouldn't be 5 that hit it as well as he hit it. A TrackMan test. He has the record for the best long iron score. Just a great player, but didn't have the admission ticket to go to college. And as a result, his development has really been compromised. Golf coaches, you're not going to meet Cheryl Anderson or Matt or Mike Bender likely at a college golf program. You're gonna meet someone that's a very nice person, very skilled at recruiting, very skilled at managing events, very skilled at, in many cases, running practices. They expect you to keep your relationship with your coach. So I coach a kid that goes to Duke. They've got a great college team, he's a great college coach, but he doesn't get involved in technique or they want those relationships to continue. They're not in the player development business. What business do you think they're in?
What?
Pardon me?
What?
Winning. They're in the winning business. So if you win, they love you. Guess what? The opposite's also true. It's just a reality. That's what their jobs are. So it's so important to have this long-term perspective on things and have coaching that supports it, because you're going to need it in college. You need to have a resume. If you want that job to play for college golf, to play in college golf, what are the things the coach needs to see on your resume? Pat Goss is a friend of ours. He's a coach at Northwestern. He's a top 100 teacher. He tells me he gets over 1,000 resumes. They hire graduate assistants just to do their mail. 1,000. And that's not that well known at golf school. You know, Luke Donald went there. So how is your resume going to pop out? Let me just tell you, you have Mike Bender or Sharon's name on your resume, all of a sudden it gets a different pile. I promise you that automatically. That is an automatic. But you still, that doesn't give you automatic, but you're in a different pile. You have to have the qualifications. Have you proven you can play at that level? Do you have the ball speed? Do you have the fundamentals? Do you have all the skills in place? Have you played a competitive schedule that matches up with what you would need to play at that next level? Really important pieces. Do you have a good attitude? Do you have a good reputation? They check. Coaches know it. It's a small world, the golf world. They know who Thomas, you could probably tell me off camera who the ding-dongs are in the AJGA. You guys all know this stuff. So the coaches know. They know the kids that are doing the wrong things, whether it's making poor choices about alcohol and drugs. What happens if you do that in college? Bye-bye. Out the door. You got 1,000 resumes. They'll bring somebody else in. So the way you're going to get your resume to the proper pile, to the top of the pile, is skill, results, great personality, good attitude, excellent work ethic. That's the reality. That's what they're looking for. The good news is you guys and gals are sitting in some of the most fortunate seats in America for this. This academy, it's world class. Imagine some poor kid in Iowa or Canada. I mean, there's no chance. It's reality. It's unfortunately reality. When you do get a chance to go to a U.S. school and you get a chance to be considered for a scholarship, it's important that moms and dads take the lead here, because through the eyes of an adolescent, they don't have the experience we have. So just realize that they're good people in college golf. They're great coaches. They're not dishonest people, but need to be clear. Don't go by percentages. What is it going to cost you to send your child to that school? Get a breakdown. You need a car at school. That's a big expense if you're sort of on the line, if you can afford to go there. What about coming home with Chris? What if we go to University of Hawaii? Wouldn't that be fun to go to Hawaii? You gotta go home for Christmas and Thanksgiving. You can afford that. It's a big sense. So really, when that gets to be the case, make sure you're looking with adult vision, if you will, and be clear on really what it is. Scholarships are not for 4 years. They're 1 year renewable. You can ask a question, go ahead.
Do they usually come with room and board? I mean, do they get, does it include where they live?
Well, it does. A young man that's training down, actually going to come over and train with you guys. One of my I trained him since he was a young boy. He had a full ride. He actually made money at school. On a full ride, they gave him a check every month for his rent. So I think he got $475 a month for rent, but his rent was only $375, so he was making money playing. Everything was covered. So yeah, if you're on a full ride, it's all covered.
But it's not like the football team that has special dorms, they don't have special dorms.
Yeah, athletes stay with other athletes. In most schools, they have athletes stay with other athletes. So you might room with another, unlikely a golfer, it could be a basket, whatever. So they have typically, and they have training tables in many cases, and they're given unbelievable privileges. For example, they have tutors at every school. It's just unbelievable. They have 24-hour tutors. The young man I coach at Duke, you should see the facilities where they have study hall. You've been there, like it's wild. It's incredible, the opportunity, but no one is going to hand it to you. You have to earn it. It's really exciting if you're ready for it. It's just a phenomenal possibility. I have a young girl that I coach that is at, funny enough, is at the University of Iowa. This girl knew nothing about college golf. Literally did not have a clue. A very late bloomer, and she's really good. She's really, really good. So she goes there and she goes, oh my God, Henry, I had no idea this was going to be so much fun. But she's got 142 miles an hour ball speed. For those who aren't quite sure what that means, she flies it, what do you think, Mike? 245, she's hitting the 265 as a female player. Great swing, good hands. She's as a freshman, their second best player, automatic. And so she's on I could then get coach from that spot. This girl had not broken 85 in her life up until her last year of junior golf, and all of a sudden, she shot a 72, and a 76, then 83, and a 7. So she started, and all of a sudden she came on. So I had to sort of beg the coach, begs the wrong word, convince the coach, they trust us, because they know we're not there to do anything but the right thing. And so she's on a very small golf scholarship. She's on like a 15% golf scholarship, but she's a very bright girl. She did wonderful on the SAT. She got like the equivalent of like 40% academic. So she's getting somewhere around a half a ride. But because she's playing so well, what do you suppose happens next year? Just like the real world, she gets bumped up. Now, if you get a lot of money, you don't get bumped down unless you do things that are untoward, so you get in trouble with the law. But what happens if you get a lot of money and you play poorly, the reality is the coach will oftentimes make your life pretty miserable and want you to try to get you to leave. That's what happens. It's an honest thing. So it's a serious, exciting business, but you need to be aware of all these things. Gather real data, rely on people that care about young people, that know the situation. We see it out there all the time. There are people that, this industry has people in it. When I say this, people, the collegiate sports recruiting industry has people in it for the wrong reasons in some cases. So just get with people that have a proven track record, that want to help kids that deserve to be helped, and don't make promises that really aren't there. So college golf is a very exciting place if you're good enough. If you can play and play the travel team, it's a phenomenal thing. If you're not good enough, or you're on a team where you don't play, it's no fun. You sit on the bench, it's no fun. So my role is to support Mike and Cheryl and Matt and everyone here and everyone in the room to help you find your dream destination as your time goes on. I'm here to consult and support everyone. Help moms and dads get clear information on the pathway. So please, let's start with some questions, and I'm sure if you have a question, other people have it. So what questions do folks have?
Henry, one of the things that we talked about too is, we always talk about finding that right fit, big school versus small school, things like that. But like I think, I went to a very small school, and the reason I went there is because I knew I could play. Because I didn't want to sit that bench. And the fact that I played allowed me to get as good as I did. But if I would have gone to a big school and I see kids want to go to a Duke or something like that, but they're not really good enough, but since they take 10 people on the team, they might make the team, but then they never get to play. And then it's like you said, it's kind of miserable because you're going to practice, working hard, you're not playing in the events. So I feel like, that should be a major consideration. Right?
Absolutely, for sure. You want to go somewhere where you can play and you know that you're one of the guys or gals that's going to play. You've got to work at it. No one's going to give it to you, because if you're not one of those people, the coaches, the reality is that if you're on a scholarship, they're going to give you the nod before, unless you're really whipping them and qualifying. So make sure you don't just go for the name of the school. Go to the best school that you can go to, given your skill level. And that's what I'll support with if and when Mike and Cheryl and Matt ask, that sort of thing. Other questions folks have? Yes?
Henry, you had mentioned that they're starting earlier and earlier to recruit, so a lot of sophomores get recruited. So you feel sort of, what's the reality if you're not recruited by the time you're a senior of getting a good spot in school?
It's a great question. I'm going to go back to the early part here and sort of refresh everyone's memory. It's a gigantic landscape. Conrad Ray's a guy that we know very well. He's at Stanford. Well, there's only going to be, in 2015, he's only going to have 1 or 2 players. He's got 10,000 kids send him a resume. So it's hard to be that guy. He's looking for the best player in the world for that birth year. That's the guy he's looking for. If you're not that guy, don't worry about it. There's plenty of room if you're good enough. So the asset test is, do you have the skill? Do you have all the ancillary skills that go with it? The self-management, the good personal behavior. Are you mature enough? If you're good enough, you'll get there. You'll find a spot.
Can that come out in your senior year?
Absolutely. Oh yeah. Well, have you
Yeah.
ever heard of Taylor Pendrith? You heard of Taylor Pendrith? Oh, Mike. Oh, you haven't heard of him. Well, you might have seen him on TV. He was the guy caddying for the kid that played in the U.S. Open amateur final last year. So the guy caddying for him is Taylor Pendrith. And I did a talk in Australia, and I said, it's the best player you've never heard of. I get a phone call, I don't know, 4 or 5 years ago. Well, I guess 6 years ago. My assistant called me and said, Henry, you won't believe this kid, he's so good. He never played the tournament. At the time, he's 16 years old, since Taylor's of their age, he's raw as could be. And we helped him, he got so much better. And who's going to recruit him? Nobody. So I called Coach Page at Kent State. Kent State's a great golf school. They're a top 50 program all the time. They finished top 10 a couple times, and they've got great facilities. So I called Coach and Coach, I said, I'm going to ask you a question, but the only answer is yes. And you're going to think I'm crazy. I said, Taylor Pendrith is coming to your school next year, and you're going to give him enough scholarships so his family can afford it. What's the answer? He said, yes. Now you folks can YouTube him tonight. If you YouTube Taylor Pendrith, I showed, so anyway, fast forward, Taylor Pendrith, he took a year off of high school, so he finished high school, you have to graduate on time. So Taylor Pendrith went to Kent State, had a marvelous career, started winning some big tournaments, he won Ford Cup. That was the first one, right?
Sorry.
Yeah, but he only won by 7. But you never know what's going to happen when it really happens. So this year he got to play in the Canadian Open, his first pro event. Most people, when they play their first pro event, Mike knows this, they don't do so well. He shot 65 at the age. Finished, I think, 23rd in the event as an amateur. But what's remarkable is that he outdrove the field by 27 yards. He was the longest player in the field by 27 yards. What's the most important skill in golf? Thank you. He has, so he's like, it's like a 100-yard dash, and he's got 4 or 5 yards in the field. So he's got great hands. So he was caddying for Corey Connors, who is playing this year in the Masters. Can you imagine? So when I was a national coach, I had to take certain players. If they satisfied transparent criteria, they were on the team. So this man, young man, Corey Connors, I'll never forget, he was on my range, and I had my TrackMan hooked up. And I know I'm taking him to Japan that year, so the World Championship in Japan. I know I'm taking him 8 months to Japan. When I put him on TrackMan, he's 17 years old, and he's got 135 miles an hour ball speed. Which means that he hits the ball 235 or 240, and we're going to play a 7,100-yard wet golf course. I now know I have no chance to win a medal. It's over. So I call him, I said, Doug, this is ridiculous. I got this kid. Anyway, this guy is an amazing young guy. Corey Connors, who worked his butt off. He's now a long hitter. Almost won the U.S. Amateur. He's playing in the Masters. Pretty cool stuff. But he was a nobody in junior golf. He went to Kent State as well.
Another example though is, everybody at this age, most everybody they're infatuated with the distance. And I mean, I know it's extremely important, but don't you think, just like that person there, it evolves as well. So if you're 14 or 15 or even 16, whatever, you're going to hit the ball farther than you do now.
Oh, yeah.
End of story. Unless you're just one of the unusually developed or whatever. You have the most fastest twitch muscles alive, but don't you think?
Absolutely. It'll come.
Yeah.
Keep those, as Mike and Cheryl and Matt and everyone tells you, really work hard and be short. Short game, so in basketball, defense wins championships. In golf, defense wins championships. Putting, chipping, all the shots inside 50 yards. Get those skills as sharp as you can. So if you're Aiden and you're a 2002 kid, have the best short game of any kid that's in 2002. And I'll promise you, if you've got a great short game and you've got control of your driver, you will play college golf. Because we can teach people at this level, these great teachers, they can teach you to shoot under 75 all day long, if you can do that. So the benchmarks, maybe that's a better question. What are the benchmarks? Division I men's golf is played at the Division I is played at several different levels. The super elite level, they want the best players in the world who are like Corey Connors, world type players. You need to be a +2 handicap minimum to be traveling on a team at that level, a top 50 team. So if you're not that guy, then you shouldn't be in that league. Now the next 100 teams, if you're a 0 handicap in competition, you're in the right ballpark. If you're a 3 handicap, you could probably be on a team with no scholarship money. And I guess the bare minimum to play in a team of any level would be a 3 or 4 handicap in competition on the inside. If you're not that good, you just won't play. You're not good enough. Female golf is a different landscape. The elite teams, the Duke teams, the top teams, they're looking for girls that have plus handicaps. But there are girls playing Division I. I have a girl that she's playing Division II, but Division I golf, if you can shoot in the 70s more than the 80s, you'll play Division I golf and you'll get most of a ride. Fair show?
Yeah, I got a girl at Houston,
Yeah.
Tatiana, 78, 82. Full
I
ride.
have a girl that is at Division II college in Texas, and nice girl, very good looking swing, so she looked good on video. I didn't tell any stories about her. I told the coach exactly what her skills are, what her scores were. Her scores, quite frankly, were all mid-80s, low 80s on a good day, and she's on a 3/4 ride at a pretty darn good school, and she plays on the team. So the female landscape is different, but please don't think if your girl is shooting 79, she's going to play at the University of Arizona. That's not going to happen. But there's phenomenal opportunity, and that's hopefully my message is to inspire you to put in the effort now to build the foundation of your building, so you can just keep growing. And if you grow and get success early, good for you. Keep it going. Don't stop working. If you don't, just keep working and listen to your coaches. Incorporate the physical piece into the game. Incorporate the mental piece into the game. Make sure your club's always fit. Mom and Dad, make sure you trust the coaches. Golf's a game where people have to have clubs that fit them all through their development. I have a young guy that I coach. He's a beautiful young kid. He's only 11, but a beautiful golf. And he's small. I was a small kid, believe it or not. And so anyway, he's small, but he wants big boy clubs. So he gets big boy clubs, against my judgment, cuts them down. What do you think's happened to his swing? Technique is all out of sorts now. So just get the right equipment. Never grow into clubs, grow out of clubs. Really important.
Henry, one other question, I don't mean to take up all the time with everybody, but just it'd be interesting to hear your thoughts, because you've done a lot of the coaching model when you're coaching the national team is somewhat different than just a regular golf academy. So one of the things that we have here is we have the ability to take one lesson, like you come and sign up for an hour lesson, or we've tried to go around the road with developing programs, like we have a junior champions program that's a lot more inclusive, and then we have our elite program that's continuous coaching. Can you make some comments on, what model you think, what's the advantages maybe or disadvantages?
So in a perfect world, you have the perfect world here, by the way. The perfect world would be that you have the opportunity and the infrastructure to have private coaching on technique when you need it, and some people will need more at times and less at times. It's not always coaching, private coaching, but that has to be part of the mix, and everybody will be different. And then what I saw tonight was magic. What I saw here was, where's my video camera? Like people having fun, excellent coaches, well organized. That's how people develop in this sport. Then I saw Mike coaching an elite player over there working on technique, which is a piece of that puzzle. So it's a holistic piece that has all those components in it. And where do you learn to play golf? On the golf course. So make sure you play enough golf. We see Mike and I and Cheryl and Matt, we see a lot of junior golfers only playing in tournaments. Play a lot of golf. So in that the LTAD piece, the long-term athlete development piece, the sports scientists made us have really good estimates of how many holes of golf a week should someone be playing if they're going to be elite, at what age. So, as you probably all know, you got to play a lot of golf. But you've also got to get the skill development in. We have a saying, you say, if you want to do the smiling, you got to have the miling. What the hell does that mean? Well, if you want to hold one of those big trophies like Zach Johnson has done, or any top players who hold the smiling, right? You've got to have myelin. What the hell is myelin? Myelin is, think of it as a coating over your connection between your brain and your muscles. So imagine you had like copper wires running through your body, but when you play sports, the more that you play, the more that there's this coating that goes on top of the wire. And when you do it for hundreds and hundreds of hours, that coating over the wires becomes very, very slick, and the message travels really fast. So great golfers have myelin. They do things unconsciously because they've done it so many times. So they've hit the million 4-footers. So under pressure, the 4-footers relatively easy. So if you want to do the smiling, you have to put the practice in. And what we notice in a negative way, which I really encourage everyone not to fall into these traps, these phones are wonderful. Aren't they wonderful? Remember the old days of the PGA show? They had to say, Mike, I'll meet you at 12:30 in the PGA lounge, right?
Yep.
But now you just text, they're wonderful tools, but when you come to play golf, please come to play golf, put them away. Put the earphones in the bags. Moms and dads, don't text them while they're training. When you put your shoes on, be an athlete, and just have fun with it. And if your attention is not on golf, then you've got to ask yourself some questions. Do I really want to do this? But I'm so excited for everyone here. You've got an incredible environment to develop your skill. If you love this game, it's all here for you. It's phenomenal. Really phenomenal. Other questions folks have? Yes, sir?
What about those schools that's not part of the divisions? Some of the good athletic schools
Like what?
Princeton, Columbia.
Oh, they're Division I.
Oh,
They're Ivy League.
All right.
So they don't offer any scholarships per se,
Okay.
but they have great golf teams.
Okay. So they're.
Yeah. So they're in the Ivy League, and they don't offer any athletic scholarships. So the way they work, if you they recruit players, but the way it works is you fill out a very detailed questionnaire and assessment, and then the school tells you how much aid, if any, they'll give you. So I had a girl that I taught many years ago who was an okay golfer. She was able to break 80 occasionally, not much, and she applied to Brown, an Ivy League school. And her mother, she called me, she was crying because when she read the thing, it said, you've been fully, you're accepted, and her mother was a single mother, she couldn't afford, at the time was 45, she was crying. And she kept reading and said, you're getting complete aid. So she got a degree at Brown, never paid a cent.
So do they also have a college team and play regular tournaments?
Yeah, it's Division I.
Just like Division I?
They are Division I.
Oh, they're Division
Yeah, they play in the Ivy League.
Oh, it's their own league?
Yeah, their own league.
Like the SEC.
Correct. Yeah, the Ivy League champion plays in the NC2As. Cheryl, anything I'm missing here? Any blind spots I haven't covered? How many people feel like they've learned quite a bit there? They've got some better ideas on the pathway. And hopefully the message is go for it. Put the effort in. It's an incredible possibility, but no one's going to hand it to you. Was there questions?
You talk about resume, and obviously resume is paper resume, but you see all these swing videos, what are the thoughts, with the coaches on their desk with DVDs, stacked up to here,
They don't even open them.
They don't
So the way it works in the real world, very much like the real world that we live in as adults, is there's a network, and people trust certain people. That's hard for a young person to understand, right? So if Mike Bender calls up Conrad Gray at Stanford and says he's got this dynamite player, guess what? Conrad Gray will come here. That will happen because Mike has that credibility, or show whoever it may be.
look up his scores.
Oh no, they trust Mike right up, so they right away know he's credible. Now they start to recruit. Does he fit in? All that stuff. That's how it really works. Yeah. So thank you for the question. People, they're inundated with videos. Now the website that I've created called collegegolfplacement.com is a website that is to support young athletes. So when we get to know an athlete that is qualified, so if someone has the character, the skills to be considered for college golf. We post them on our website, not for public view. It's a backdoor website. The college coaches all have passwords. So they go in there, they can look at these players. They can see their grade point average, SAT score. They post their records and a swing video. And there are many college golf teams that, because like not every college golf team is flowing in money. A lot of the coaches don't have recruiting budgets. They're looking for the diamonds in the rough. So that's when they look at a swing video. If they hear that that player is a good person, a good player, and they see a good swing, like that girl I told you about, the girl that playing in Texas, that's how she got recruited. So you can play college golf if you really put your mind to it. If you're here and you're putting the effort in, it's all right in front of you. But no one's going to hand it to you. Henry?
What about academics? Because we talked about how important that is. So how likely is it that a student athlete can take a really difficult academic program like engineering or something like that and still balance the demands of the golf team as well as a really rigorous academic?
Yeah, if you're going to take thanks for the question, that's a good question. If you're going to take a program like engineering or a very demanding academic program, it takes a very special person to be able to do it. Not all coaches want a kid to do that, but there are certain places that do it for sure. So I've got a young guy that's going to Carnegie Mellon. It's an incredible school. A lot of kids turn down Harvard to go there, and he's playing golf at that school. They're super high level engineering. So yes, you can. A lot of coaches don't want to, but there is a fit for that.
But it's something to weigh up when you're thinking about.
Absolutely, yeah. So make your choices based on more than just golf. But there are some, incredible universities that want people to study at a high level.
We have
Others really don't.
Abby, who's going to Vanderbilt to study chemical engineering, and she could have gone almost anywhere. So it was a tough choice.
Yeah.
We're all encouraging her to try other things, but that's what she wants, and she can handle it.
Yeah, so if they can handle it, great, that's great. But you have to find a coach that has that mindset, that believes in it. The honest reality is, not all coaches are all that keen on, they want them to graduate, but they're almost too much the other way around.
Right.
So that's a family thing, and that's important. Other questions folks have? For the younger people, the young athletes, raise your hand if you found this to be, on some level, inspiring and motivational. That's good. I want the message to be clear. You can do this, you will do this. Put your mind to it, put in the daily focus, and it'll be amazing how you grow. Listen to your coaches. On the good days, enjoy them. On the bad days, just work through it. That's all part of the process. Question, sir?
Maybe one question. It's overwhelming to choose a school. As you say, landscaping is so broad. So you sit there and you don't know really where to start. But then at some age, they start getting the letters from different schools, and you know they're not going to go to that school. Is it just good manners and good practice to answer that school?
Sure,
and
absolutely.
get back to them and so forth?
Yeah, absolutely. It's proper manners.
And how do you narrow it down which school they need to go to?
Well, that's a family decision. So, it's your family, your child. I would encourage you to say, academically, is this a great fit for my child? Are they going to get a degree that gives them mobility in the future? I hope you would look at that. And then, of course, let's get the golf program that can answer to that child. So the coach's personality, the kids in the team, all those things. So there's a lot of things to think about.
Where is it?
Pardon me?
And where is it?
Yeah, exactly. Well, location, of course, too. Yeah.
One thing that I see amongst the girls, that teammates are playing a humongous role. I see stories where people commit and decommit and do all kinds of stuff because they like or dislike a teammate. So it's kind of an interesting dynamic.
Very interesting dynamic. So you've got to be, when you do the visits. So the way the visits work, just let me touch on that. If you are a recruited athlete and you get invited for a visit, they're 48-hour visits by the NCAA. 48 hours on campus only. They'll pay the athletes. It's all governed by the NCAA, so they'll pay the athletes if it's an official visit. They can pay their expenses, so they can pay for their flight if they fly. They can pay for their meals on campus. The player will stay with an athlete on the team. The coach cannot watch them play golf. That's against the rules, although once in a while they kind of do that. And so the player sees if they're a fit for the school, and then of course what happens is the player sees if the current player sees if that player may be a fit for the future, and they tell the coach, hey, that Thomas is a great guy, you should get him, or that Jimmy, he's a goofball, don't ever get him here. That sort of thing. That's how that works.
So
And moms and dads-
official visits before you get an offer, is it?
Well, you can have up to 5 official visits, but they can make you an offer anytime. Likely, if you are going on an official visit, the reason why they've invited you there is to make you an offer. So typically what happens is mom and dad go for the campus tours, they meet with academic people, etc. And then at the end, the coach says, hey, I'm very interested in Betsy or John, whoever it is, and we're prepared at this point to make a commitment to you at this, and they give you some time to think about it. That's how that works. And then once the signing period is, there's called an early signing period and a late signing period. So every fall, it's almost always first week of November, right, Cheryl? So the first week of November, the signing period begins. So the clock strikes 9 a.m. in the morning, whatever it is, on November the 1st. Then the coach calls up the athlete, calls up Aiden. Aiden, this is Coach Pat, University of Georgia. We've discussed, as we know, you've discussed coming to Georgia. Are you ready to commit? And he says, Coach, I told you I'm all in, I'm all in. So they've told him they're going to commit. Now it's formalizing the commitment. And now he faxes in a signed national letter of intent. Mom and dad sign it. Then it goes, it's filed with the NCAA, and then it's official. If you don't get signed in the early signing period, don't worry about it. The signing opens up again in April. So now in April, the signing period will open up. I've got several kids I'm working with that they're good players. They're going to play college golf, but the landscape starts to change. So some kid might leave school for academic reasons. So, all those things. Some kid might transfer. So new spots open up, and that's how that works. But the bottom line is, if you're good enough and you have a good attitude, you'll get a spot in a good program. Absolutely. If you have the right support. It's a difficult, as the gentleman said, it's an overwhelming landscape you're not clear on, right? And that's what we're here to do, is support all that, to support your academy. Other questions, folks, right now, Ms. Mann?
On the academic side, do you find that homeschoolers are looked at differently or in different ways?
No, homeschooling is so prevalent now. A young girl, you probably heard of her, Cheryl, Jennifer Kirby, she's playing the LPGA Tour now. She was homeschooled all the way through high school. She went to Alabama, played in the national championship team. So tons of people are homeschooled. Matter of fact, some coaches look at it like it's a plus because they've been managing themselves already. So no, there's no, I've never heard of any stereotype against it. I think it's only a positive if that's an athlete's pattern coming up. Anything else I missed, Cheryl?
I don't think so.
Matt?
No, you hit the nail on the head. It's great.
Well, it's really a pleasure and honor to be here to support everybody. Play golf because you love it. Go for it. Your parents are supporting you. You've got great coaches, and if I can do anything to support you from this end, I'll work through Matt and Cheryl. And thanks very much for taking the time tonight to come out and see us.
Thank you.